Why do you feel, as so many people call it, church hurt going on in the religious community?
Okay, well, I think that it's the culture. Like it's the culture that we want someone who is charismatic, someone who's a good talker, who can really make it sound good, make it look good. If they can sing, if they're flashy, it's kind of like we're drawn to that. Um, but also, it's kind of like they can easily twist the scripture, you
Yeah.
know? There's really no qualifications that people are really like you don't qualify because the scripture says, you need to be the man of one wife, your kids need to have respect for you and all of this other stuff. We don't really like hold people to that. It's like it's no checks and balances, you
Right.
know? And that is why it's so easy for people to do it. Like if you can manipulate somebody that easy, you can not have like any education, no qualifications, and people will give you unlimited access to their whole lives. Like pastors get access, or spiritual leaders get access to people that nobody else gets.
Right.
Like you get access to their finances, what their relationships are like, their sex life is like, their kids, you get access to their kids. People just send their kids right on up to the pastor
Right.
and and it's like this person has a past. They have, it's like, does that not matter?
Right.
You know?
It does matter. See, that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's like I can't really follow a religion where if I'm not doing what you said tell me to do, then I'm automatically wrong. Or if I believe in something different,
Mhm.
I'm wrong because I don't believe in what you believe in. I will never
Mhm.
follow that.
Yeah.
And
And then they have it
that's
where you can't even question it. Because even
right.
questioning it means that, oh, you're wrong. You don't, you're not, you're not the, you don't have the Holy Ghost, and you don't, you don't have the Spirit, and all this other stuff, or touch not my anointed, and it's just like they just twist it for their own good.
Yep, they're for
Hmm.
manipulation.
Yeah.
What 3 words do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, that is interesting. There is, for what I'm doing right now, and to me that's very important. Now I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and that's important. Probably more important than what I'm doing right now. And if they ever told me like let it all go, then for them, then I would. But as far as like what I'm doing, I'm building my platforms on redemption, vindication, and justice. And those are things that are very important to me based on, what I feel like my calling is and my purpose is right now. And then there's expose, educate, and heal. And that's another 3 pillars that I'm building my platform on. So I want to be someone who is compassionate and concerned and an advocate, but I also want to be a safe place. So it's like that's what's important to me right now.
It is. So, why did you make the decision to become a counselor?
Oh, okay. So I had an advice column when I was in high school. Now I went to 5 different high schools. Okay, so when you met me, that was the last high school I went to. But at one of my high schools, I had an advice column, and I don't know like what made me think, okay, I could give folks advice, but they kept asking me, so I was like, well, I guess that's part of my purpose. But people have always found it easy to listen to talk to me. I listen to them, but I listen with intent. I listen with purpose. Not just listening where you can just kind of dump your trauma on me. But I'm a very discerning person as well, so I tend to help people, like just guide them in a direction that they feel is right for them based on their goals and their values and what they believe in. And so it just really makes sense. And I actually got my master's degree once I got out of the military.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my second master's degree. My first one is in public administration and business. And
Mine too.
and then I was trying to really find, a, a job that would, be a little bit different for me,
Mm-hmm.
than what I did in the military. I was a human resources officer. And even though it's a sedentary job, I was thinking, okay, well, maybe, counseling's a little more sedentary.
Mm-hmm.
But I still, because of my medical condition, I still wasn't able to really work in that field. So now I use my counseling degree to write, research and really educate people. So I'm just trying to serve in a way that really maximizes the education that I received and what my passion is. Okay. Makes a lot of sense to have that degree.
All right. So what do you feel needs to be brought to the world's attention?
The devastation of spiritual abuse.
Okay.
It's devastating. And it's hard to pinpoint. It's hard to prove. It's hard. It's hard on people. And, I make a sacrifice every time I feel like I go live or I, do a video talking about it. I feel like I make myself look a little crazy, because it's like I'm trying to really highlight what a lot of us experience. And a lot of us don't even really realize we're experiencing it. Yeah.
Because we think it's the norm because that's how we was raised in the church, And I'm not saying nothing's wrong with the church. I'm just saying I found a better way.
Yeah.
I found a little bit better way. That keeps me with peace.
Yes.
And, my mindset is different and I'm still out here living a positive life. Yeah. And it's not just about me. I'm not selfish. I'm about others. Like, that's what attention is for. That's why I became a life coach. Shout out, be your own reason. You need any life coaching, holla at your girl. But yeah, so like my next step is probably going to be counseling too. Because I want to be able to incorporate that into my life coaching. But yeah, I feel what you're saying on that. I really feel like that does need to be brought to attention. So anytime you want to come bring it to people's attention, just let me know and we'll have you as a guest.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So is there any other things that you want to tell them that you got coming up? And then we can have it highlighted on the
Yeah. So my main thing now is discernment, and even though, I came to this place based off of spiritual abuse, if we think about discernment, it doesn't even matter whether we're using our discernment in a spiritual context or whether we're using it in our finances or our relationships. Another big thing that is a problem in our community and our world right now is toxic relationships.
Yes.
And I truly believe that probably 80 to 90% of preventable illnesses are caused or exacerbated by toxic relationships.
Yes.
If the toxic relationship didn't cause it, it's definitely not going to make it better, Right. And that's another thing that we really need to raise people's awareness of. So if we can teach people to really increase their discernment, look at the facts of stuff. Analyze situations. Don't just take things at face value. Weigh a person's words by their actions and their behaviors and what you want out of your relationship and what you believe in and your values and your goals. And, if something doesn't feel right in your, in your spirit, if it doesn't feel right emotionally, don't ignore your emotions, but put it in its proper context. Don't make just emotional decisions. Make sure that you include it, but you're looking at facts, you're observing things, you're taking your time. Don't be rushed into relationships and decisions. That's one of the ways that a lot of spiritual abusers can, get their way in is by making people doubt their discernment. But let's say you take these basic skills of discernment, right? Of looking at facts, observations, your intuition, analyzing the situation, then you can use that in every area of your life. You won't be making rush financial decisions or bad financial decisions. You won't be making bad decisions in your relationships, in the churches you attend, in the job you take. You'll make better decisions overall. So that's what my overall message is, discernment. And so I created this app. It's called the Kingdom Code, and it stands for Community of Discerners Everywhere. And these are people that, all over the world who are just trying to make better decisions, and align with other people who believe the same. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will help you to make the right decision for you. And that's what it's really all about.
All right. So in your book, you have a quote. It's anger cannot live in the same space as peace.
Yes.
I wanted to know why you chose that quote to put in your book and a little bit of explanation.
Well, I have a lot of anger. Okay. Had a lot of anger.
Gotcha.
That I've been working through, centered around my father. Now, my father still preaches. He actually has a church locally, and he watches my videos. yet he is unmoved. He's unchanged by the things that I have said, what I have revealed. And that has caused me like a lot of hurt, a lot of anger. And because I'm his only daughter, I feel like just, my heart is hurting. And I love my father, even though I experienced what I experienced, I still love him, and I still want him to be better. But he's just unmoved, But I've realized that I have to use your anger in the right way. It's not that anger is bad, but it can be.
Yes.
It can go over into, the dark side of things. And you can create a lot of peace in your life if you use your anger in the right way. So anger could be a very powerful catalyst for change, because you see, okay, I'm angry because of this injustice. Yeah. I'm angry because of this abuse, and you use that to change things, and then you can create a more peaceful environment for yourself and for others.
Yeah, that quote speaks a lot to me too, because like when I was younger, it was the anger that got me to get things done. Like, make me mad during a basketball game. Oh, I'm finna score like 20, 25. And so what I had to realize was that I wanted to not come from anger all the time and try to figure out how to come from love. And in the process of that, I realized that you had to use both.
Yeah.
Because it's like my motivation.
Yeah.
Because, like, when I'm mad, I'm going to get anything done. When I'm in love, I'm going to get anything done, But, yeah.
Powerful emotions.
I like that quote. Yeah, I like that. All right, so what made you decide to write the book, and what was the process of you writing the book?
Okay, so, like, when people ask me, like, okay, what made you write the book? I go right back to the title. I was provoked. I was provoked to write the book, okay?
Anger.
Yes, again, anger. So the book is based off of a phone call that I had with my father, and this was the day after I left the church. And this was a call where my father did all of the spiritual abuse tactics. I mean, terrorism, threats, intimidation, legalism, all of the spiritual abuse tactics. I wrote about those tactics in my book, and I also added another tactic, and so I've actually contributed to the list. And the 14th tactic is objectification. And see, I've noticed, just like I was telling you just a minute ago, is that my father is unchanged, which means that even though I have brought all of these to his attention, all of these tactics, like, these are all the things that you have done, it still doesn't matter, because I was just an object to him. I was just someone that he used to help him look better, to build the church, to bring people in. And he used my voice, because I was a singer. In fact, I sung just before my father would come up and preach. And so it would kind of lull people, and then after he would preach, I would sing. And so it kind of lulled people to a certain feeling, And so I actually recorded the conversation. And prior to that, I had started recording my father. That was kind of like what this Holy Spirit told me, like, hey, you need to start recording your father. And so I started recording his sermons. I started recording private conversations with him. And that day, when he called me, I was actually on my way to another doctor's appointment, because I had been getting like bad news health-wise. And he wasn't concerned about that. He was concerned about getting me back under his control and keeping me at the church, because he said, if you leave, the whole thing is going to fall, And I recorded that conversation, and I would listen to it, I would listen back to it, and I just couldn't believe, what he was doing to me. And I knew he knew what he was doing. And so I had that conversation transcribed, and I put that in the book, and what I did was interwove the backstory. Like, this is what he said, but this is what he means. This is what he said, this is what he's doing. This is intimidation. This is threats, highlighting these spiritual abuse tactics. And I realized, just through my research and all of that, just trying to see, when you realize that someone is a narcissist, I think everybody does this. They go on a research, right? They go like, okay, I got to figure out, what is this? Why are they like this? Trying to make sense of what you experience. And I did the same thing. But what I noticed is that there were a lot of recordings out there. there was a lot of education out there, but it didn't marry the two, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so you had to try to listen to what you heard and then make sense of it. And so what I did was put in what he said and then interwove what it actually means. So I kind of married what was already out there and scattered that people would have to search for and put it all together in a book. Um, Now, the process of actually writing the book was a bit difficult because as I was writing it, I was experiencing it like it was kind of like re traumatizing me, you know? And so I was going through a lot more anger. You know, I was still having a lot of health issues. In fact, I was smoking weed a lot. I mean, like every day I was smoking and I was high all the time. And, you know, it was just like how I would cope with things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, and so now I'm sober, you know, and now, you know, I have a lot more clarity about what I'm doing. Um, but throughout that process, you know, it was like that book is like, it's filled with a lot of emotion, you know, and a lot of transparency and just raw and realness.
So in terms of forgiveness, is
Hmm.
it, you think this would be one of those situations where you have to forgive somebody who's not even sorry, or do you think that one day your father will come around, or do you hope for that one day?
Well, yeah, I hope that, you know, he definitely gets himself together, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I don't I mean, I no longer have any interest in having a relationship with him. So
Mm-hmm.
even, you know, if he changes, that's not going to impact our relationship.
Gotcha.
Um, I think that there are levels to forgiveness. And that in some situations, forgiveness really isn't possible. I believe that what happens in terms of forgiveness is as soon as a person starts to speak out about what has happened to them, people
Yes.
just want to push forgiveness. You know,
Yes.
like you gotta forgive, you gotta forgive. And it's just like, well, I'm just now getting to the point where I can articulate what has happened. So don't push me to forgive just yet. You know, let
Yeah.
me get there. you know, so um, you know, I don't really push forgiveness, even though I think that, you know, it may be a logical next step in my journey,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just gonna let the journey happen, you
I
know,
feel
and
you.
let me get there, you know, if I get there.
As a counselor and an author, what advice do you have for people looking to share their stories without re-traumatizing themselves?
Oh, oh my gosh. Well, you know, I was a bit re-traumatized myself when I was going through my process. But see, I did a lot of research. I actually even hired a coach to help me write. And this is the advice that they give. Don't write and don't put out your book while you are still going through what you're going through. Now, I didn't listen to that advice. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you that. I didn't listen to that advice because I knew that capturing this capturing this trauma raw, you know, capturing it while I was feeling it was the best benefit that I could have to myself and to those who would read my book. So I would say write it. Write it because it is going to help you heal. I also have this quote that, and it's probably a widely known quote, and it says, "The way out is through."
Mm-hmm.
And and so that means that you're just gonna have to go through the process. You know, you're gonna have to just work through the process. You have to go through what you go through, and it's all part of your journey. Everything that you experience, you document. So even as I am going through what I'm going through now in trying to really appeal to my father's better self, I'm capturing these moments. And I think that we need to capture these moments. And so, you know, I didn't follow the advice to just wait until I'm on the other side of my trauma in order to write about it, you know, because that's the best thing that I can offer to those who are going through what I'm going through. Now, I'm not unique, you know, a lot of people have experienced all types of abuse. And a lot of people have experienced it worse than me. And so, what I believe that I offer and what a lot of people offer can offer to this field of really writing about your trauma is that if you can write about it, you got to realize that there are people who can't. And that
Mm-hmm.
part of their healing and part of your healing is the fact that you can. And so, it's like you must write about it. I did, you know, start to smoke a lot more. I was high all the time. I was, in the dark a lot, and I have a she shed that I do my writing in. And so I would be in there, all day in the dark, with just my computer, or, when I didn't actually, when I couldn't write based on like how I would feel physically because of my fibromyalgia, I would record myself just talking it, and sometimes that's a better way than just trying to sit down and write it. Talk. Whenever you're having a conversation about your trauma to a friend, record it. And then you get that transcribed later, because sometimes you capture something in the moment, a feeling in the moment that is so valuable to your healing and to other people's healing. So I say do it. And if you end up having some maladaptive type behaviors, then you're going to have to get counseling. Now, another thing that I did was I had a counselor. I always talk to my counselor. My counselor has my book. He knows about what I'm doing. And so, I was always under his supervision. And so I would recommend that, you stay under that supervision of a counselor, a life coach, in your situation, and, and make sure that you have someone who is understanding of what you're trying to do. You're just trying to work through your trauma, work through the process, and document at the same time. That is one thing that we can all offer to ourselves and to other people, is to write about your trauma.
I got a question. As far as like counseling and therapy go, what advice can you give to our community to get them to even think about it? Because they are so estranged to it. I don't need no help. I don't need no counselor. I don't need no therapist. Yes, you do need a therapist. You do need a counselor. You do need a life coach. Like, what would you say to somebody that's telling you that, right?
Do it.
Right, bro. Like,
do it. That's what I would say. Get a counselor. Get a counselor. And again, use discernment, right? Because we do know that there are some abusive counselors, that there are people who aren't, that they'll more than push, they'll push their own agenda.
Right.
So you have to use your discernment when you're picking one. If you don't have that, that type of relationship where you feel like you're comfortable with them, you get a bad vibe, listen to that. But that doesn't mean that you just say, okay, well, I don't need a counselor. Right. That means you find another one.
I'm just going to go find the bottle until I'm about to just mess up my liver and all this other stuff.
You just keep looking until you find the right one.
Yeah, that's powerful. Well, I'm glad. Thank you for being a guest today. Like, I really have learned a lot. You're going to link. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Attention. If you have any topics or anybody that wants to be a guest, please hit me up at sunflowerspeaks@gmail.com. And remember, experience to teach, don't just learn.